go, I'm rich. I said, I think these things are good. The people that most people are afraid of, that's who I'm attracted to.
So everybody, this is Nancy from Uncle Funky's Vintage. She has a store and an online store on Whatnot. She has a live brick and mortar, and her stories are fantastic. We just want to find out all about Nancy from
Okay, so Uncle Funky's, I was bored to death. So I walked in one of the co-ops, and the owner always liked me. And he's all town. He says, Nancy, he says, I got a store for rent over in the shopping center. He says, if anybody's going to make it, he said, it's going to be you. He says, you want the store? I said, I'll try it for 6 months, but I'm not signing any lease. And I opened the store, and it took off immediately. It was Uncle Funky's Vintage Thrift. So in 6 months, I outgrew it, and I moved into Ephrata, a small little, I call it a little hillbilly town. And it's a great story. I made friends with all the homeless, the drug addicts, the drunks. They were all my friends. And it sort of became a ministry where I just hung out with them and made them feel good. And they always left happy. So I stayed there for 11 years. And then back in the same shopping center, a bigger store opened. So I went in and I said, Frank, I said, you got a store over there for rent. I said, you going to take care of me? Anything, Nancy, I'll take care of you, he says. And I've been here now 5 years. I think Uncle Funky's is now 18 or 19 years old. And we've won the top 10 thrift shops twice now in the state. Just every single day. And people were bringing mounds of gold, piling it on my counter. My knees would be shaking. I had one woman, she was married to a man, and she wasn't allowed out of the house. She was much younger than me. So she bought all this jewelry on QVC, wherever she could buy it, eBay. They got divorced. She needed money. You know, those great, big, massive totes, real high?
Yeah.
Bought 6 or 8 of them. Don't ask me what I paid in a matter of so much time. It was all silver and gold, no costume.
Oh my God.
It was great. It was like Christmas every time she walked through the door.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was great. To somebody that was nuts, and he just didn't want, he wanted her home, you know, like the barefoot pregnant thing at home.
Yeah, I was going to say barefoot and pregnant.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. So when she left, took all that and came and sold it to me.
So yeah. I mean, because you had the homeless there, you had the drug addicts, you had everybody in there. Yeah. So like they wait, you broke up. What was that?
I said I always take care of the underdogs. Always did.
And that's karma.
Yeah,
that's what
the people that most people are afraid of, that's who I'm attracted to. Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
Well, I was a gypsy my whole life. You know, I lived out of school buses and, you know, traveled the country, lived out of vans, lived in rest areas. And, you know, I met a lot of crazy people on the way, and I was never afraid of them. I made them my friends. So when I got that store, I felt sorry for them. You know, the kid that worked for me, he was homeless when I met him. And I just pulled him right in. I gave him his own desk. He was a tattoo artist. And he was real goth looking, always wore leather and covered in tattoos. And I made him part of the store. It was great.
Did he sleep there? Where did he sleep?
No, I wouldn't let him sleep in my store just for fear he would let other people in and it would get robbed. So they used to sleep at Walmart up the street.
Like outside at Walmart?
Yeah.
Wow.
And eventually he got an apartment, he got a girlfriend, they got a car. I mean, he's doing good to this day. So yeah. A far cry from normal. I started this when I was 15. I never graduated school, and I knew I wasn't going to, and I knew somehow, some way I was going to do this on my own. So I was always a hustler. Since the time I was a kid, just buying and selling wherever, whatever. It's really, I think the most fun was the paintings that I bought. Um, I was asked to do I was the guest speaker at a country club to do appraisals for antiques. And a week after, this lady called me, and she was old, and there was Mabel and Sybil, and they needed a new roof. And she said she had some dolls she wanted to sell. So at the time, I had a two-door Chevelle Malibu. I pull up, I go, and she said the dolls are in the garage. I said, "Can I follow?" So, "Oh, sure," she says. They were old. Mabel and Sybil were very old. And they opened the garage door, and all along the back wall, lined up, were these oil paintings on canvas. And I said, "What are they?" And she said, "Oh," she said, "my father used to do the covers for Saturday Evening Post." She said, "They're all old paintings." And I said, "Do you want to sell them?" She goes, "You wait here. Let me go ask Sybil." And I'm thinking, well, they got to be good. I took chances my whole life. That's why I'm where I'm at. I had no idea what I was doing. She comes back out and says, "Yep. Sybil says, or Mabel says, we can sell them." I said, "Okay." I said, "What do you want for everything?" She said, "I want $1,000 for everything." I said, "Okay." I whipped her out $1,000, and I'm looking at these paintings. They weren't in frames. They were all on canvases. And I'm thinking, how am I going to get all these in my car in one shot? Because my fear is, and anybody that's a dealer knows, you take the stuff with you because you might not get the second chance.
Right.
I shoved every canvas in the car that I could. And I'm driving home, and I get in front of the house, and it was just my mom and myself at the time. My husband at the time was working. I'm beeping the horn, and my mother comes flying out. "What's the matter? What's the matter?" I go, "I'm rich. I'm rich." I said, "I think these things are good."
How much did you get for them? For your $1,000?
31,000.
Whoa. What year? When was that? How long
Oh
ago?
my God. I was still living in Philadelphia at the time. I don't know, 35 years ago.
So that was a ton of money. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a lot of money now, but it was really a ton of money then.
And I got all cash. And I
Oh my
went in
God.
my mother's garage at the time was under the house, and I had a little hard metal box, and I hid all the cash in her garage under all the tools.
Oh my God.
I put it towards a big 14-room house down there.
So you turned $1,000 into the ability to buy a 14-room house.
Pretty much. Yeah.
So you're a fucking, pardon my French, you're a genius. Do you have another fun one? That's such a great story.
Baseball cards. Oh, I'm going home. I got a big box truck at the time, and I'm right around the corner from my house, and I see all this trash piled up. And the neighbor was out there mowing the lawn. I get out, I go over to the neighbor, and he goes, "Oh," he goes, "they died, and their family's in from Chicago trying to empty the house." And I thought, oh boy, that's for me. The door lady invites me in. I go down the best basement. It was big metal bookcases. They were all tied together. Nothing but cartons around the entire basement. So I said, "What do you want for everything in the basement?" She goes, "$500, you can have it." I said, "Sold." And my boyfriend at the time called me. He was the owner of the big antique mall up here. And he says, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm sitting looking at all these little mini cards." He goes, "Mini cards?" He goes, "What are they?" I said, "Wrestlers, football, baseball." He goes, "Nance," he goes, "Are you sitting down?" I said, "Yeah, why?" He goes, "They're antique baseball cards." I'm like, "Get out of here." I said, "I have hundreds of them." He goes, "Let me make a phone call to Hunt's auction for you." Long story short, they went into Hunt's auction and they sold for 26,000.
When did you find Whatnot? How did you get on Whatnot?
So, my other good friend, Tiki Go Go, was selling on there. And she's like, Nance, she goes, you got to get on Whatnot, you know? It's just good. It's just good and it's going to be good. It's going to be better. And I'm like, all right, I'll try it.
What I've noticed is that when you go on Whatnot, your room fills with people like immediately, and
Yeah.
everybody talks as though they've known you forever.
You know, I tell them all the stuff is junk. You know, it's all a bunch of garbage. Buy whatever you want. I don't care. It's like, you know, to me, it's just a free for all. Here, is this what you want? Here. Yeah.
And because your reviews, everybody just loves you from your if for those of you watching, if you go to Uncle Funky's Vintage on Whatnot, I'll have a link in the thing below, whatever that is. If you go on there, watch Nancy's shows or follow her, and you'll get alerted to when her shows come on. If you see personality here, you're going to see personality there. You're not going to be able to leave. You're going to be disappointed when she says, "I have to open my store now. I have to log off."
Yeah. I usually do pop-ups in the very early morning. I don't schedule. I do pop-ups.
Online, I would imagine. What do you have any tips? Like if somebody wanted to start a whatnot show or a whatnot store, whatever you want to call it, or start selling on what?
That's easy for me because I go on Whatnot and I go to these people. I can't even stay in the room. And I'm going to show you why. I'm just going to grab something right in front of me. Okay. And they get the dice and they say, here's the dice. And they talk about it for 5 minutes. Nothing is showing in the background. They're like molasses, they're like honey dripping. Okay. I'm bored out of my mind. If you're going to do Whatnot, learn how to do it fast. Don't play games. You say what you got to say and move on. And people really care what you look like. You know, you don't have to, you know, these people with the makeup piled on and all their nails. Come on. Everything's so fake and phony. Just be you. Have fun with it. Make the money and go. But you had asked me about Bakelite.
Yes,
And I said to you, you know, I was never a big Bakelite fan, but I got a great story for you.
I want to hear. I want to hear.
And this is how I got into the clothing business was through Bakelite. So one Sunday morning at Renninger's, I mean, we're talking 5:36 in the morning. It's a big open field with all the tables. It's one of the biggest antique places around here in PA. And in the back was like a wooded grove. And I walked back there one day, and here's this guy with tables filled with Bakelite jewelry. So I walked up to him and I said, wow, this is a lot of Bakelite. And I picked up a piece and I was testing him. I said, how much is it? I forget what he said, maybe $5. I said, really? I said, okay, I'll buy everything. I'll buy your whole table. This is going back, I'm going to say again, 35 years ago. And I mean, tons of this crap. So I bought it all. And he says to me, do you buy clothing? And I thought, I better say yes, because there's more in this house, wherever this came from. And I said, oh, yeah. I said, I buy clothing, never bought clothing a day in my life. And he said, well, my mother, they live in Maryland. And he said, my mother used to own a strip club bar, Charlotte's Nude Review. And he goes, she passed away. And he said, the house is loaded with clothes. And I went, really? And I said, where is this? And he said, Maryland. It took us, I think, 2 hours or 2.5 hours to get down there on a dirt road to get to the house. Okay. Pull down, and there's a big 2 or 3 car garage with the doors open, filled floor to ceiling with shoe boxes from like the 1940s on, the entire garage. We go in, the dining room had refrigerator boxes filled with pocketbooks. They had tractor trailer backs around the whole backyard. everything was filled with clothing. And what she would do is she would get the guys from the bar, whoever she flirted with or whatever she did, to take her out shopping, and she'd buy one of everything in every color, things new with tags. So, long story short, we spent $10,000 on all the clothing. And I think it was 3 truckloads, 3 visits there to get everything out. I mean, big trucks, not little vans. And then my boyfriend at the time built a pole barn. And it took us, I think, maybe 6 months to go through all these clothes. And he built me big racks to hang it all on. And we went to Brimfield and we brought a smidgen of everything that year because we were advertising for this big, huge sale of the clothing and little bit of jewelry. So we advertised up in Brimfield, and that week we did $30,000 up in Brimfield along the road with just bringing a little smidgen of things.
Just making a dent.
Then we had the big sale. They flew in from parts of the United States. I think somebody even flew in from England, and they were buying mounds and mounds of clothes. Now, you got to remember, I had no idea what I was doing. I just
That's
threw
the
out
best.
and, whatever. And our first opening day, we did 18,000.
That is a great story. That's what everybody dreams of.
Yeah. Yeah. Another good story. I did a house call down on the main line in Philadelphia, and this lady calls me and she says, because I advertised in the paper, and she says, "You buy jewelry?" I said, "Yeah." So I go over, and the main line is very wealthy, rich people. She says, "All the jewelry's upstairs on the bed." I went upstairs, and I mean a mountain of jewelry. So I just loaded the box up, with everything in it. I go downstairs. She didn't even come up with me. I go downstairs and she says to me, I said to her, "What do you want for the jewelry?" She says, "You can have it. I don't want nothing to do with it. I'm divorcing him. I don't care about the money. Take it." She gave me microwave oven. She let me take whatever I wanted out of that house. That's how rich she was. So I get home. I'm going through all the jewelry. I found men's real Rolexes, women's real Rolexes, watches. I found everything you could possibly imagine off that load of stuff. That was
Oh,
another good story.
oh my
Another,
God, I love these stories.
I used to drive school bus, and you weren't allowed to get out of the bus when the kids were in the bus. I didn't care. I never followed rules a day in my life. I got out of the bus. Something told me to go in this trash can. This trash can was full of jewelry. Full of jewelry. I pulled all this jewelry out of a trash can.
Oh my God. I
Yeah,
mean, you were driving kids home from
yeah,
school?
yeah. And I saw an Oriental rug or something. And I figured I'm gonna look in that trash can. And when I looked, it was filled with jewelry. I took the
My
Oriental rug too. I made the kids get out and help me put it in the bus. And
oh my
another time, you're making me think of funny stories. Another
you're
time, grocery store, and this old lady was in front of me, and she was crabbing at the cashier to make her bags light because she had to take the bus home. So I thought, oh, come on. I said to the old lady, "You want me to give you a ride home?" She said, "Yeah, you can give me a ride home." And now Philly people are a little different than country folks up here. They always have a chip on their shoulder. So I get her in the car and I drive her. Whoops, I'm sorry. I drive her to
okay.
the front of the house. She goes, "I don't want to go in the front of the house. Take me around the back." All right. And they were row homes. I take her up the alley. I get her out of the car, get her bags, get her in her house. I turn around, another trash can with all jewelry hanging out. The
Oh my
whole
God.
trash can was filled with jewelry there too.
The stories you're telling are very inspirational. Seriously, very
Right.
inspirational. So, I mean, they're colorful, but there's a lot of depth behind them, and I think that to me is what is fascinating. So it's
Yeah.
not like you're just telling a story. I mean, there's a lot with those stories. They're colorful, but they're rich.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's wonderful.